I'm a bit late to the party, but watching Douglas Murray debate Dave Smith on Joe Rogan was simply painful. I'm a big fan of Douglas Murray, and I think that generally he's on the right side. That is, Israel has every right and responsibility to defeat Hamas and bring home the hostages. But the debate was an absolute demolition, and Dave Smith clearly won. He won for a few reasons. One, Douglas Murray trying to basically invoke credentialism is a pretty weak argument. Let's not forget, there are tons of quote unquote journalists for Al Jazeera who are on the ground in Gaza, seeing what's going on and lying and misrepresenting the facts. So just because someone's there does not mean that they're telling the truth or that they're more informed. That said, if you think that someone is honest and they're a fair reporter of facts, it certainly can color an opinion in a positive way. And that perspective is clear from what Douglas Murray was trying to articulate. But there is an obvious counterpoint. Second of all, when Dave Smith invokes the Palestinians as suffering the most, Douglas Murray was a bit flustered and didn't actually respond with the obvious response, which is that the 24 living hostages who are in tunnels right now are clearly in the worst situation. So, not that it's a comparison, but when Dave Smith invokes the fact that the Palestinians have it worse than the Israelis, it's clear that there was an easy argument that Douglas Murray simply didn't raise. Third, an army has an obligation to its soldiers. And Dave Smith is making very emotional arguments and actually telling the truth about a few things, which is that Israel has to justify and explain and have an understanding of what's going on in combat and be able to justify some degree of the civilian deaths in Gaza, right? So if there was an instance where Yahya Sinwar was surrounded by 5 civilians, it would make sense that Israel would have bombed him and killed those 5 civilians. Now, Dave Smith has to answer if he considers that to be murder or if he considers that to be a justified killing. But that is a legitimate question that can be debated and discussed, and it doesn't require John Spencer level knowledge of all of the rules of war. And generally, the dismissiveness in which Douglas Murray went about talking to Dave Smith kind of led him to this disastrous result. It's a shame when you see someone who's on the side of the facts lose, but just on how the presentation went and how compelling the case was, Dave Smith clearly won. And I wish that Douglas had been able to respond to some of these claims at its face, but sometimes when you are actually over intellectualizing something, can lose the pulse of the debate. So it was painful to watch. It was just a bad day for Douglas, but definitely the W to Dave Smith.